But more than any other art form, I feel a book encourages empathy. That feeling that I'm there too, this is about me, I'm part of this tribe welcomes me, and I welcome this tribe. I'm connected to it. That's the great gift of empathy. So I want to be aware of that. I want to be aware of encouraging empathy. I want always, as I write books, to be aware of saying, you are welcome in this tribe, saying to the reader, you are welcome in this tribe of humanity. It is wide and it is varied and it welcomes you. The other thing it can do, it can tell a child that they're welcome in this tribe, but it can also allow them to see that, hey, I could be a different way too. I could, in fact, step outside of where I am and I'd still be okay. The other reason, though, that I write for kids is something that I just stumbled upon this a couple of years ago, and I really think it's changed my writing and my books more than maybe almost anything else that I ever came across. It's not a writing tip or anything. What it is that I just heard this quote from Carl Jung, which was, an interviewer asked him, Dr. Jung, why is there evil in the world? And he said, young man, there's evil in the world because people can't tell their stories. And that really resonated with me. I just felt that's absolutely true. That's a really huge thing. And I started to think about kids telling their stories. And what happened for me was that I stopped thinking about the phrase writing for children, the word for in there. I stopped thinking about it, meaning I am going to give it to them, and meaning they're the recipients. And I started thinking about it this way. To tell your story, for every person to tell their story, you need 4 things. You need a powerful voice, you need language skills, you need a platform, and you need an audience. All 4 things. And very few children have all 4 things. And I have all 4 things. So I have started thinking about writing for children, meaning that they can't do it for themselves. They don't have the powerful voice, the language skills, the platform, and the audience. So it's my job to do it. So I'm not giving them something to read. In the way that I think about it is I'm saying, here's how it is, 1, for this little girl, Clementine, and 2, for the larger community that she represents, because these kids can't tell you what it is like. And so the best letters that come to me are the ones that say, and I'm not alone in this, I hear this all the time from authors, the best letters are the ones that say, until I read your book, I thought I was the only one. This is me too, this is how I feel too, I get this. Which again is encouraging empathy, but makes me feel that I'm doing less of that, I'm gonna make this thing and give it to you, and more of, I'll be your voice, I will be your voice, and record your story. I was once asked to speak to a huge group of reading groups. There were 3 or 4 different reading groups that got all together, and they said, come and talk. My adult novel had just come out, so I said to the woman doing it, I said, well, should I talk about my children's books or should I talk about my adult book? What's the theme here? And she said to me, she said, oh, Sarah, if you want to talk about your books, that's fine, but nobody really wants to know that. What they want to know is, what is it like to be a writer? And I thought, but that's really nuts. That's ridiculous. What do you think, that our life is so different that we, like Marla, you do roll out 8,000 count sheets, right? And then the espresso machine and the clove cigarettes, right? Is that how it goes for you? And then I sit down at the keyboard and my words and sentences pour out perfectly like pearls on a necklace. And then I get interrupted around 3 o'clock because Andy Garcia calls me up and says, you won't take no. And this Andy Garcia. Yeah, that's my life. No, it's a normal, boring life. But it's too boring, in fact. I have no life because I write books. I have no real life. But anyway, so the interesting thing was, though, I was thinking, that's so bizarre. You don't want to talk about my books? You want to know that? That's bizarre. So, but the thought came to me, this subconscious kind of voice came to me and said, tell them it's like being really, really mentally ill. And I had the reaction you're having. It's like a dark laugh. That's really not a nice thing to say, but a little bit funny, but not. But I followed that through because I've gotten good at following through that. Why would you want to say that? What does that really mean? So I go to Wikipedia and I looked up mental illnesses. And I want you to know I have friends and family who are, Meryl, you know, kidding. No, I'm sorry. Roll that tape. But anyway, I do have friends and family who suffer from challenges, and I'm really not joking here. I really wanted to follow this through. And here's what I found out, just really quickly. The first thing that comes up is schizophrenia under mental illness. And the definition of that is an altered or impaired perception of reality, and the hallmark is hearing voices. And I went, well, my, isn't that the best description of me when I'm working? I have to alter and impair reality, and I have to believe it, and I had better hear voices when I'm working. The next thing that comes up is multiple personality disorder. And that says we're two or more distinct personalities who perceive and react to the environment in different ways, live within one person. And the hallmark of that is the sense of lost time. And I went, oh my, now I see what this is about. That's a really good description of what it's like to be in that creative state. I'm there somewhere, but boy, when I'm writing Clementine, she is very present and she reacts to the world in different ways than I do, and she perceives the world in different ways. And I do have a sense of lost time. When I've been listening to her and writing, I could not tell you whether 4 hours has passed or 40. I just have no clue of that. That's one of those being in the zone things. So then the next thing that comes up, I won't bore you with this, is a borderline bipolar thing, which actually there's a lot of theory about creative people being on, if you think of human behavior as on a continuum on this, the bipolar continuum, with at the extremes is bipolar disease of, you know, very hypermanic and depressed, and then here in the middle is where the general population lives. In between is sort of a level where you'll find a lot of artists. So I understood that. I spend a lot of time lying down and in dark, and I swim a lot. I swim and work a lot. When I have a problem to work out, I get into a swimming pool. And I think that's because it's the closest I can come to a deprivation tank. I've learned the skill of quieting my own voices. I have to do that. And then mostly I just think about this character. I think about whatever character it is. And I actually try to, when I'm working, I try to go to sleep as that character, if that makes sense to you. That's an odd thing, but it's a very helpful trick for me. If I take a lot of naps, and I don't even go into sleep when I take a nap, I just sort of go lie down, make it dark, make it quiet, and I think so much about that character that I try to imagine what it would be like to be that character falling asleep, because that's where the subconscious is really, that's where her subconscious will show also, where the things that she'll say without being guarded come out. In fact, I don't start a book until I have a personal challenge for me is that I would take a bullet for that character. And then, so I have to love them very much and find them very interesting. And I listen, and mostly I just record. And then the hard work comes, the editing, because she talks a lot. She could just ramble on, and most of what she says isn't that interesting. So, but I have to, so then I have a standard. Then I have made myself pretty skilled at understanding narrative form. I study Joseph Campbell's work. I think we all know narrative form and mythic structure some way, but if we study it, we really get better at it. And I really recommend, if you're studying stories, to look at his work, Hero's Journey, or The Writer's Journey, which has been translated for writers. And for me, here are the things that I've come up with. I think there are 5, there might be 4 of them. One, we're pack animals. We read the next sentence because we want to see how we fit in, how we are involved with this pack of humanity. We are pleasure seekers, we're hedonists, so we read because that sentence we've just read has given us pleasure, either humor or a pleasurable voice, or I'm actually talking about pleasure, you know, like describing a birthday cake or something that's pleasurable for kids. The next reason we read is that we are programmed to be alert for danger. We know signals of danger that we don't even know that we know, and that's why we're alive as a species, because we're always on alert for danger. So I like to write little danger, tiny things. When a man steps off a curb when he shouldn't have done that, the reader will obviously know look out for that guy kind of thing. So we're about that tension. And then the last reason that we read, each sentence is got to do one of these things. The last reason that we read is to find out who we are or who we could be.